All right, my man Frankie, we are on. We're live.
All right. Welcome back, guys. We are doing another SEO weekly jam. We've got some of the brightest minds. Part of what I wanted to bring on these two fine gentlemen here, Lane Houk, founder of Quantum Agency and Signal Genesis, and Seth Price, Blue Shark Digital, old dear friend of mine. You guys collectively have not just ranked one or two websites. Like, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of websites, maybe even into the thousands.
Yeah.
Have been doing this for decades. And the ideas we're about to kind of present forth are battle tested to the extreme, right? Like, when you guys say, like, hey, this is what's working for us, it's not like, I've seen a lot of the SEO stuff that's theory where one guru spreads an idea, then other people kind of parrot it, and everybody kind of takes it as gospel. But you guys actually have to do it in practice, which is a totally different ballgame. So, firstly, my man Seth, thanks for coming on and being a special guest this week.
Yeah, awesome to have you here, Seth.
Yeah, it's good to be here. That's the beauty of the interwebs. We get to see people at all points of the country and planet.
Yeah. Hey, Seth, for those who don't know who you are, why don't you give us a quick overview of who you are, what you do?
Sure. So I met Frankie years ago. I was in the legal space. For better or for worse, went to law school, started building a law firm, and it caught fire primarily through digital. So I now 45 lawyer law firm that services consumer-facing law. And I got so into the digital side, that's how I was growing it, that I spun Blue Shark Digital out of the law firm about 8 years ago. And we now represent about 250 law firms nationwide. SEO first, but LSAs, PPC, and whatever else is needed to get people business. And I got to meet you, Lane, through the agency world. So
Yep.
It's like you sort of figure out how to run a law firm, but then you're like the accidental agency owner, and you got to figure out how to run an agency. So there's always a new challenge.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, awesome. Thanks for joining us today. We've been talking about the helpful content system, and for those of you who may not have heard of Seth before, Seth runs a huge agency, and they do a phenomenal job at SEO for law firms and attorneys. Very well known in the space, big agency. And Frankie and I were talking about, we thought, hey, let's just have Seth on and talk a little bit about SEO, because that's what we do every week. We jam around SEO. So, Seth, we've been talking about the helpful content system. What's been working for you guys around SEO, and maybe even more specifically around helpful content system?
So looking at, the state of search, so to speak, right? And in one sense, the more things change, the more they stay the same. High quality content, authoritative links. Sounds very basic and boring, but the older that I get, the more that has held firm. And that for the people that sort of took shortcuts, and there are a lot of reasons to take shortcuts based on budget and positioning and type of place you're doing. So legal, we don't really get that luxury generally. Right. In that, if you're not a lead gen or not doing mass torts, but you're doing like PI or criminal or things like that, where your website is a huge asset, then you want to protect it. And the better quality content that is helping people, the more that you're sort of looking consumer first, ends up morphing with what the Google bot, what Google is looking for with its algorithm. And I think what Google's been saying very often they say things that are misleading, but in this case, they've been saying the same thing consistently for a long time, which is add value so people come to Google, follow the money. Google wants to make money by selling ads. The way they sell ads is by having the go-to search engine. For those of us, Frankie may be too young, but Lane, you remember, there was a variety of search engines available, right? Dozens. And
Alta Vista.
And Yahoo back in the day, still around. But I'm just saying there was no shortage. Dogpile was a big one for a while. There are all these different groups out there, and Google makes its money by people saying, you know what, I get the best answers here with useful information. So that if you look at it from that perspective, and I think that's what's sort of been interesting about the AI dance, right? Because AI is here, it's huge. All of our businesses use it. But Google was not a first mover. They're not an investor in ChatGPT. They want to make sure that the content being dumped into the web search universe is not crap. Because if it is crap, that's going to mean that people aren't going to go there and somebody else will beat them. So they have an economic incentive, stock price wise, to make sure that they're getting content that answers questions. Now, some of it's nonsensical in the sense that in our world, Frankie spent a lot of years in the legal space. We have to do things because we need original content, right? We don't want duplicative content. But when the law is the same across a state, or in some cases across a country, but you want to rank across that state or country, you have a variety of pages that have essentially the same law, but can't be the same page to page. Right. And so you basically have this dance. This is the inherent dance that we have specifically in higher end legal clients, but it's true for everybody, which is you want to provide content. If you're doing lawn care, the information in Albuquerque may be the same stuff as you have in Phoenix, but you can't just say, here's an amazing page on lawn care. You have to somehow localize it if you want to rank for each of those geos. So I think that putting thought into how to create content that is both original, but also adding value to that location, that's been the difference. And in legal, we have the advantage that you have at least people who are lawyers in a jurisdiction that can, emanate things out of their mind. There are places where we actually transcribe for lawyers to get that information, but that the thought that we're just going to push a couple prompts on ChatGPT, our clients are yelling for it. But for the most part, we see it as extremely dangerous because if third-party tools are detecting what's ChatGPT, right, clearly Google knows what's ChatGPT.
Yeah. Can I just
go ahead, Frankie?
I was just going to say on that, firstly, I got a few grays in my beard over there, Seth, and I was an Alta Vista user, and I even started my SEO journey when Yahoo was still relevant.
You're just a baby face.
I got a few more than you, Frankie.
But in all seriousness, I would love to just kind of pick your brain a little bit because I understand, kind of that challenge in our SEO agency is always, having new ways to come up with unique content. I'd love to hear your thoughts on doing that at scale, like being helpful. Because it's not like, back in my day, like I probably wrote 10,000 breast implant articles. And it was always the challenge of like, how do you say something new and exciting and still be valuable to the user after you've already said this 9,000 times?
Right. And make it unique, because every page of content has to be unique in order for it to be valuable. So.
Right. And I think that's where AI is going to be interesting, right? And that's the place that I'm sort of have a ton of beta tests going on. What can you do with intros, outros? Because if you have to write a letter, if I had to write a thank you letter after this, podcast or video podcast, and ChatGPT does an amazing job on it, better than I could write myself, thanking you for taking the time and including me in your project, et cetera, right? But when you're writing 100 pages, a lot of the stuff, which sounds great, if I had to send you 100 thank you notes, it starts to seem very, very similar. It's not, and so that's, I think, part of the sort of, we love the results that you get on the one-off, but at scale. So look, I wish to me, it's the bane of my existence. Every HR issue I've ever had has come out of the content department. Our content writers are specifically contract writers because we have editors that are full-time paid, but we've had such an issue, and there are people who are great and that they do it for personal reasons. They may be a mom lifestyle or retired lifestyle, lawyers who are trying to do something on the side, what have you. But it's basically figuring out how to get people that can write. We've not, for our clients, we've always stayed US only for writing, and then figure out how to scale that, which is the hiring, training, management, editing. It's not for the faint of heart, which is why the legal SEO space gets so expensive. And that I see, as I look at like the home services space, where there's some amazing players there, it's generally not based on budget, a content first play, where it maybe start with paid, get some traffic through there. You're going to do some local link building, and things that are cost effective and leverage content. I think it's not until you get to sort of the super competitive levels of some medical, legal, or and potentially other areas that you have the resources to put into that high quality content. And so that I think that when budgets are limited, and Lane, you and I talked about this offline with a number of colleagues at a seminar in Florida, you're basically, when budgets are limited, you have to sort of work with a different set of parameters. The budget is always limited at some level, but there's certain points where you're sort of the numbers are such that you can't, truly put out the amount of high quality content I would want for SEO as an SEO, guru person, but that you need to deliver results. And I think it's figuring out what amount of resources you have and where you're going to allocate it. And that while I'd love to say content, high quality content's the answer for everybody, there are going to be situations and budgets that just don't allow for as much. And it's using it strategically so that you may not have pages for every, county or municipality for somebody, but that you can still, through local, for example, make that up with service areas in markets that will allow for that. And so knowing what you sort of seeing what firepower you're going to be given and using that strategically, I think is the key.
A couple of, I would say, just some tips, strategies that we use inside of our content workflows at Quantum Agency. Number one, what Seth said, we do not use ChatGPT to write content or to generate content. We use ChatGPT to customize content to the brand name. So if we've already got a great article that was created, we use ZimWriter primarily for our actual content generation. We have one or two other tools that we use that assist the writer in generating the original piece of content. And then it goes through several stages of tweaking and customizations, including the use of ChatGPT. We do not use ChatGPT to generate the content originally, right? So that's important, and I think you probably all know why. If you don't, it's because ChatGPT is getting content from other places. It's basically rehashed content from other data sources already.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Number two, Seth alluded to it, but you need to be answering questions in your content. If it's going to be helpful, it needs to be answering the big questions and or even sometimes the unasked questions. And so use ChatGPT or other AI tools to help you generate or figure out what are the questions your audiences are asking, and or sometimes what are the questions that haven't been asked yet. That will really get attention from the bots, from out the algorithm, right? If you're introducing questions into your content that are helpful, but especially questions that are kind of related but haven't been asked yet. So use AI to figure out what are those questions and to come up with new questions. And then the third thing would be you really have to have EAT in mind around all of your content strategy and generation. Experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And so EAT, you have to be demonstrating EAT within the content itself. And so I would be mentioning the word experience directly several times in my articles, right? That word experience lines up with EAT, okay? But then obviously using the word experience, what can we do in the content to generate or to demonstrate experience? We can talk about licenses that the company or the owners have. If you're in legal, you have licenses. Talk about the licenses. Talk about the CLEs that they have just completed. There's continuing legal education. That's experience. You can talk about case studies. Those are really good experience that demonstrate to the bot, hey, this law firm or this plumbing company or this roofing company has specific experiences within their industry. And so you need to write about those experiences, use the word experience, and even potentially link out to third-party license sites, link out to reviews that have been left about the company, because that demonstrates experience that a consumer had with your company. So look for ways to integrate EAT directly into your content as part of the overall helpful content system or strategy.
I just had an idea that I think is a succinct and excellent explanation, as I've heard in recent years, on like how to attack EAT. But one thing we take for granted, because in legal this is table stakes, is bio pages, right? That's where all that crap goes to begin with, and it's a heavy traffic page. And I think Google, when they were looking at author, authority of the author, we have a natural place. I'm curious, as you've done with restaurants, home services, other places, do people ever create those about us pages where they're putting, a guy who runs an HVAC shop, usually people aren't as concerned. There may be something about the family that owns it and the history of the father passing to the son, but something that actually is giving the bot a place that's seen as this is the trove to demonstrate we're not just a lawn cutting service, but here's somebody who's gone and taken all these classes, horticulture, or whatever the term of art is. I don't see a lot of people doing that outside of legal and medical.
Yeah, and we talked about this. I think Frankie and I talked about this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. We kind of in and around helpful content and EAT is the underlying principle of authorship. And so anonymous content is exactly the type of content that Google is avoiding and not even crawling now, right? They can't even crawl the entire web because of all the AI and junk content that's being put out there, and they don't want to crawl the entire web and waste those resources. So anonymous content, meaning content that is not assigned an actual author, is the exact kind of content that Google is starting to, or already has started to, just ignore completely. And so assigning authorship to content, every piece of content that's written on a web page should be assigned and tied to a direct individual, because authorship is about an individual, not any other kind of entity, right?
And as you know, Google's really botched this. They had a bunch of false starts trying to, we saw them attempting to nail down authorship, and they've never done a great job of it. I mean, I think part of it was the blow up goes back to the Google Plus, Google Hangout times, where their platform that would have been definitive didn't make it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and this is why being proactive and being very specific about teaching the algorithm about who is the author, because Google hasn't necessarily done a great job with it. But if you're proactive and you teach the algorithm, hey, this is the author that wrote this article, and you link to their author page, then you're connecting the dots for the bot.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Make it easy on the bot and connect the dots for it. The other thing is that most websites don't have. It really shouldn't be the About Us page. There really should be a team page.
Well, that's what I was getting at. It's not really about us. It's like, so meaning having a bio page. Like, just because you're not licensed, you don't have a medical or a law license, doesn't mean you can't have your bio page.
And there should be a tree in your link structure that leads to this. So at your highest level, you have the About page. The About is really about the entity, the company, right? And then under the About, on a subhead, you have Team, right? And so you link to the Team page, and on the Team page are all the employees and or team members that at least you as the company want to list as who's employed there. And then on that Team page, you have a picture, their name, and a link to their bio page. And then every single person that's on the Team page has their own unique individual page, and on that unique individual page is their content, their bio, and a link to their LinkedIn page.
I would sort of argue for most people that are running a business, it's really them. If I'm looking at your agency, you're going to be the authority, Frankie be the authority, and that while you may have people, you should be so lucky. Over time, I have other people that speak at conferences, but that for the average user that we're dealing with, we'd be so lucky that they have one great bio. To me, one off the homepage, better than buried. Like, have it about us, but here, if you really want to say, hey, Google, this is who's writing this, with all the stuff you're talking about, with LinkedIn, with all these things, don't make them guess. And also, your employees likely don't have the same authority you do. If somehow you can tie the authority, again, you're the lawn guy. If you can get whatever you can do to build your gravitas and show Google this site is about me. I don't know if you have to go that much further. If you really care about, I mean, there are different ways to do it. There's not like a wrong answer. But as you're saying this to me, it's like I would almost go all in with whoever has the most juice and not try to sort of make it a potpourri.
Yeah. The only thing that offsets that, Seth, is that Google actually looks for. They also establish authority based on number of employees. That's why sites like Indeed have blown up, right? Because there's ways to track how many employees are at a company, and so there is a certain level of authority that's given to companies that are larger versus companies that are smaller. And one of the ways that we can communicate, we're a larger firm, and you're right. The average lawn maintenance company is not going to have 20 employees on their team page, right? Like, every landscaper and lawn cutter is not going to have their picture and their bio. So obviously you adapt this for the type of company that you have. but there is an argument to be made to at least add other team members.
Oh, I get it, and like
Yeah.
I think it's like that's where AI could come in. You could literally
Sure.
have your whole team photographed and show it, but from an authority point of view, it's going to be very hard to get those line workers, and that you're sort of going all in. I'll share the story. I don't know how much time we have left, but with Frankie and you,
You go about 5 minutes.
in real life, right? So this is not, what Lane is talking about is not hypothetical. We have a client in a competitive market that came to us. They have a new CMO, and that person wanted us to basically put a restaurant directory, a hotel directory on their site. And back in the day, you might get some traffic for it, might get some traction, but our team sort of was a timeout. If you're looking at are we adding any value, or are you just literally dumping stuff there? Now, if you said, here's our team's favorite places to eat, and you added value, all of a sudden, I think it changes the game.
Yeah.
You can somehow take this from another shitty directory that's taking up space to look at the Michelin guide, right? Michelin, they wanted people driving, they created a restaurant guide. If you can somehow become the local go-to, great, but put some effort into the thought of it's not just a data dump, but here's the value add for the user.
Well, here's the point Seth's making. We talked about this 2 weeks ago again, Frankie, is that content that is written for SEO purposes is easily defined by the bot. Like the bot is reading the content, and when we can read the content. When we read a blog article, and you know that our writer really wrote it for this keyword focus, and you can see that keyword being here and there, and even sometimes forced into that sentence or that phrase. That kind of content now is a big no-no, like because the bot is reading that and going, or that directory that Seth was just talking about. If we're adding content or pages into a site and it's all just for SEO purposes, there's no value actually being delivered to the reader, the bot is making that determination before humans even hit the site and saying, this is just junk, it's not useful, it's not helpful, we're not even gonna regard that content.
And they're also looking at data points, right? Because if you have crap content and people bounce off that page or gets no traffic, if you're a law firm and you have a hotel directory on your site, like it's a red herring. Whereas if you say, hey, here's our local guide, if you happen to be in town, and all of a sudden it's our best hotels, and you're able to tell people where to stay when they're in town, that has a shot at ranking. Because I just did this the other night. I'm heading to Europe this summer. And I was looking this hotel versus that hotel, and there are now scraper sites that are literally doing matchup of hotels, and it's frustrating. There's no value to it. It's complete BS. I'm looking for that TripAdvisor forum or Flyer Chat forum.
Where you get real user feedback, right?
Exactly. It's just AI nonsense. So that if anybody who raised their hand and said, "Here's this hotel versus that hotel," right, and knows that's a real thing. And not just, taking the two straight data points of these amenities versus that amenities, but saying, yeah, this one's a little more expensive, but it has history. It's a little, the rooms are a little smaller. Anybody who can give a little bit of value, there's a demand for it. And I'm sure Google can tell I'm spending time on those sites, and the ones that were straight, I'm like, this is nonsense, and I bounced right away.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys went down this rabbit hole, because I understand the appeal of AI to everybody. It's like you click a button, you get a whole piece of content. And so, as a side effect of this has flooded the internet. But as you guys are, obviously seeing through your experience, it's not that easy just to click a button and type in your magic prompt in Chat GPT, and all of a sudden you get top rankings for everything.
But as
even if you do, they won't stick.
It's part of the formula, and we're all scrambling to figure out how we can use it effectively without dumping crap on the public.
Yeah.
Which, in short, you got to have a multi-step workflow. It's not just, like Frankie said, not just clicking a button and then we copy and paste and off we go. We have multiple steps in our writing workflow that leverages AI tools, but is being driven and quarterbacked by the human writer. And then it's going through an editing and a QA process as well to make sure our writers are held in check and accountable to not just clicking a button going, here's our article, right? So we got to have those processes in place. It should be a multi-step workflow, and definitely do not use Chat GPT to be the generator of your original content.
And look, the easiest way to do that is we have clients. They say, we want to do our own writing, and they hand it to us. We run it through one of the 2 or 3 programs. It's 90% AI. Now we know, we're humble enough to know it's not perfect. Declaration of Independence came up as AI. So, you just never know. But that said, it's pretty good at this point. And if it's pretty good commercially, imagine what Google's seeing.
Sure. So just massage it, put factors and signals into your content, look at making helpful, answer questions, look for answering even unasked questions that your audience hasn't asked yet but should be asking. Those are the hallmarks of great helpful content, and that's what's going to help you rank your contents or your clients' content on their web pages.
Yeah. I got a gentleman. So I'll see you guys later. I appreciate you guys coming on here and doing this, but you guys can continue without me.
No, if Frankie's not here, I'm not. I can't hang out.
We're out, Frankie. Thanks a lot for joining us today, buddy.
No, it's great seeing you guys, and hope to catch up soon.
See you guys.
Be well.
See you guys next week. Take care.